The baby with the death certificate in Victoria's hands just opened its eyes. She stumbled backward in her cramped room behind the Acafer mansion, the newborn's tiny fingers curling against her chest. The hospital tag dangled from its wrist, National Hospital. Deceased. Date, November 28th, 2 weeks ago. But the child was warm, breathing, its dark eyes far too aware for something that should be dead. Then it pointed. One impossibly small finger aimed directly at the window, toward the abandoned well she'd just pulled it from. Victoria's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Put it back, last warning. A car door slammed in the compound. Minister Patrick Acafer's voice cut through the evening air, sharp as broken glass. Search every room. Someone opened the well. Heavy footsteps, multiple men, 60 seconds, maybe less. Victoria pressed her palm over the baby's mouth, heart hammering. She had no idea what she was holding, but she knew one thing: if they found her with it, she was dead. What Victoria just found will make her a target of Abuja's most dangerous families, and the well has more secrets than just this baby. Hit subscribe because this story ends with a scandal that shakes an entire nation, and you won't believe who survives. The baby wouldn't stop staring at the well. Victoria wrapped it tighter in Mrs. Angela's stolen bedsheet, expensive Egyptian cotton she'd recognize anywhere, and paced the tiny room. Every time she moved away from the window, the infant's face crumpled, ready to scream. Near the window overlooking that cursed well, it went silent, watching, waiting. "This isn't natural," she whispered. Voices echoed in the main house. Minister Acafer's security detail, spreading through the compound like poison. Victoria had worked here 6 months, long enough to know that when the minister came home early, someone disappeared. She tucked the baby inside her cupboard behind folded uniforms. Its eyes tracked her movement. She was 3 steps toward the door when the crying started, piercing, relentless, the kind that brought men with guns. Shut up, please." Victoria yanked open the cupboard, pressed the baby against her chest. The crying stopped the instant she turned toward the well. "What do you want?" The door handle turned. Victoria froze. Through the gap she saw Papa Joseph, the elderly groundskeeper, his weathered face tight with fear. He slipped inside, locked the door behind him. "You took it," he breathed. "Girl, do you want to die like your mother?" The words hit like a slap. "My mother died in a car accident." "Your mother was Patience Okonkwo, from Gwagwa village." Papa Joseph's hands shook as he pulled a faded photograph from his pocket. A young woman standing beside the very well outside, before the Acafer mansion existed, before Maitama was Maitama. She tried to expose what they did to our village in 1985. They made it look like an accident in 1998. I watched them do it. Victoria's knees went weak. The woman in the photo had her eyes, her cheekbones, her. "Listen to me." Papa Joseph pressed a crumpled paper into her hand. 3 housemaids before you found Bobby's in that well, all 3 dead within 48 hours. Car crashes, house fires, a fall from a balcony. His voice cracked. "You have tonight, maybe less. Take the baby to this address in Niger State. Mama Blessing is waiting for you." Who? "The woman who's been collecting these children for 30 years. The woman who knew you'd come." He moved toward the door, paused. "Your mother told Mama Blessing before she died, 'My daughter will finish what I started.' She meant you, Victoria." He was gone before she could respond. The baby cooed softly, its finger still pointed at the well. Victoria looked at the address. 4 hours north. She had no car, no money, no reason to trust a groundskeeper's ghost story. But when she lifted the baby's blanket, she found them photographs, tucked beneath the child's tiny body. 12 faces. Children and teenagers, all with the same haunting awareness in their eyes. Written on the back of each photo, names, dates, families. Acafer Danjuma, Bello Ibrahim. Abuja's most powerful surnames, and every single photo was marked with one word: returned. Victoria's phone buzzed again. Different number. "Victoria Okonkwo, your mother's daughter. Run now or join her. She ran. The keys to Mrs. Angela's BMW were still in Victoria's pocket from this morning's errand. She'd planned to return them. Now she was sprinting through the servants' entrance, baby clutched to her chest, praying the guards were focused on searching the main house. The car started on the first try. She barely made it past the front gate before headlights flooded her rearview mirror. Two black SUVs, ministers' men. Victoria's hands tightened on the wheel. She'd driven in Abuja traffic, survived it even, but this was different. The SUVs weren't trying to stop her. They were herding her, away from main roads, toward the industrial district where screams went unheard. Her phone rang, unknown number. She answered on speaker. Victoria, a male voice, young, urgent. My name is David Obi. I'm a blogger. I've been investigating the Maitama land scandal for 3 years. If you're running from the minister, you need my help right now. How did you? Papa Joseph called me. Turn left at the next junction. There's a motorcycle waiting. Lose the car. She should hang up. This could be a trap. But the SUVs were gaining and the baby was starting to whimper again, that unnatural sound that meant. Victoria yanked the wheel left. The BMW skidded into a narrow alley between warehouses. At the end, a figure stood beside a motorcycle, helmet in hand. Young, maybe late 20s, with wire-rimmed glasses and a camera bag slung across his chest. David Obi looked like a journalist. He moved like someone who'd run from worse. Leave the car, he shouted. Victoria grabbed the baby and ran. David was already on the bike, engine roaring. She barely had time to climb behind him before the SUVs blocked the alley entrance. Men poured out, guns drawn. Hold on, David twisted the throttle. They shot forward through the opposite end of the alley into Abuja's maze of back roads. The baby pressed between them, silent now, its little hand fisted in Victoria's shirt. Wind screamed past. Headlights chased. David took corners like he'd memorized them, weaving through night markets and residential streets until finally, the headlights fell away. They didn't stop until they hit the highway north, toward Niger State, toward Answers. Who are you really? Victoria asked, voice hoarse against his shoulder. Someone who's been waiting for this moment. David glanced back, eyes bright with something between fear and triumph. For 3 years I've been documenting the Maitama land theft, but I've never had proof. You know what you're carrying, don't you? A dead baby that's alive. You're carrying evidence that 12 of Abuja's most powerful families have been covering up a 30-year conspiracy. David's jaw tightened. And if Mama Blessing is ready to move, it means the endgame just started. The baby cooed again. Victoria looked down and felt her heart stop. It was smiling. 4 hours later, they arrived at a compound that shouldn't exist. High walls, armed guards, razor wire and security cameras in the middle of nowhere, Niger State dust and darkness pressing in on all sides. The gate opened before David even announced them. Inside the compound was a small village unto itself. Dormitories, a school building, a central courtyard where a replica well stood, ancient stones rebuilt with reverent precision, and surrounding that well, 30 young people, teenagers and 20-somethings, all turning to watch as Victoria climbed off the motorcycle with the baby. They all had the same eyes, that same too-aware gaze. Welcome home, Victoria. The voice came from the well. An elderly woman emerged from behind it, leaning on a carved walking stick, her face a map of years and struggle, but her eyes sharp, burning with purpose. Mama Blessing, David breathed. The old woman smiled. You brought her, David, just as I knew you would. She turned that knowing gaze on Victoria. And you brought my newest child home. Come, we have much to discuss and very little time. Victoria's legs moved on their own. The 30 young people parted for her, silent, their attention fixed on the baby. When she reached the well, Mama Blessing touched the infant's forehead with one weathered finger. Born November 28th, declared deceased by Dr. Emeka Obi, given to the well by Minister Patrick Okafor himself, who believed his firstborn son cursed. Mama Blessing's voice carried across the courtyard. This is the last child. The circle is finally complete. I don't understand, Victoria whispered. Your mother did. Sit, child. Let me tell you about the day they stole our land. They sat on the stone edge of the well, Victoria, David, and Mama Blessing. The 30 young people gathered close, and the old woman began to speak. 1985. Abuja became Nigeria's capital, and powerful men decided Gwagwa village sat on land they wanted. Your mother's father was our chief. He refused to sell. So they came with soldiers with fire, with promises that turned to ash. Mama Blessing's hands tightened on her walking stick. They killed 17 people that day, buried them where they fell, built mansions over their graves. Victoria felt sick. I was our village priestess. As they dragged me away, I stood at our sacred well and made an oath in blood. Your heirs will be returned to the land, every firstborn, until the debt is paid. Mama Blessing met Victoria's eyes. The well heard me, and it answered. The Bobbies, David said quietly. Every family that built on our sacred ground, every firstborn child called to the well within weeks of birth. Some families tried to fight it, moved away, hired guards, consulted priests, but the well always called louder. Mama Blessing gestured to the 30 young people. For 30 years I've collected them. Dr. Emeka Obi was sympathetic to our cause, or so I believed. He declared them dead, falsified records. A nurse named Grace helped transport them. They came to me, and I raised them as my own. To reclaim the land, Victoria whispered. To reclaim what was stolen. These children are the biological heirs of Abuja's elite. I have DNA evidence, birth records, and testimony. When the youngest turns 18 in 2 months, I file the lawsuit that returns Gwagwa land to its true owners, through their own children. Victoria looked at the faces around her. 30 lives, stolen from cradles and raised in secret. 30 families who thought their children dead. The scope of it was staggering. But I took this baby early, she said. I wasn't supposed to. No, Mama Blessing's expression softened. You did exactly what you were meant to do. 3 years ago, I placed you in the Okafor household. Not by chance, Victoria. I called in favors, arranged references, ensured you'd be hired. You were my eyes and ears, though you didn't know it. The world tilted. You, what? Your mother told me before she died, my daughter will finish this. She knew they'd kill her. She knew you'd survive. And she knew that when the time came, you'd be the one to bring the final child home. Mama Blessing touched Victoria's cheek. You triggered the endgame early, yes. But perhaps that's what was always meant to happen. The well works in mysterious ways. Victoria wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to run. But David's hand found hers, warm and steady, and she held on. What happens now? She managed. Mama Blessing opened her mouth to answer. The compound alarm screamed. But Minister Okafor knew about Mama Blessing's plan all along, and he'd spent 30 years preparing to destroy everyone involved. Comment below if you think Victoria will survive what's coming. The guards' voices crackled over radios. Military convoy, police escorts, they have warrants. Victoria's blood went cold. David was already on his feet, camera out, filming. The 30 young people moved with eerie coordination, taking positions around the compound like they drilled for this. Maybe they had. Mama Blessing remained by the well, unnaturally calm. He's early, she murmured. I didn't expect him for another month. The gates shuddered under impact, once, twice. Then they simply opened, locks overridden, security defeated. Minister Patrick Okafor stepped through with an army at his back. Police, military, men in suits carrying folders thick with official stamps. And behind them, Dr. Emeka Obi, the sympathetic doctor, the man who'd falsified 30 death certificates. Victoria felt David tense beside her. Mama Blessing. Minister Ackaffer's voice carried across the compound, smooth as oil over water. You're under arrest for kidnapping, conspiracy to commit fraud and falsification of official documents. These children, he gestured to the 30 young people, are evidence of your crimes. Evidence of yours, Mama Blessing said calmly. I have legal warrants. The minister smiled. I have testimony from Dr. Emeka Obi, who confesses to helping you steal bobbies from grieving families. I have police reports, witness statements, and a very compelling narrative about a delusional old woman who convinced herself she was saving cursed children. Victoria's mind raced. He wasn't hiding the conspiracy. He was weaponizing the legal system against it. You planned this, she breathed. Minister Ackaffer's gaze found her. Victoria Okonkwo, Patience's daughter, I've been waiting for you to show up. Your mother was a problem too. Look how that ended. David's camera captured everything. Minister Ackaffer didn't even flinch. Film all you want, blogger boy. This footage will be evidence in my case. These children were kidnapped as infants. Mama Blessing will die in prison, and Gwagwa village will remain exactly where it belongs, buried under Maitama's foundation. You're going to kill us, one of the young people said, a girl maybe 19 with scars on her palms. Aren't you? Minister Ackaffer didn't answer. He didn't have to. Then a voice cut through the tension like a blade. Patrick. Everyone turned. Mrs. Angela Ackaffer stood at the ruined gate, still in her nightgown, face pale and wild. She'd followed her husband, heard everything. Angela, the minister's smooth facade cracked. Go back to the car. You told me our baby died. Mrs. Angela's voice shook. You held me while I screamed. You arranged the funeral. You, her eyes found Victoria, found the infant in her arms. Is that? Victoria stepped forward. His name is on the hospital tag, check it. Mrs. Angela moved like a sleepwalker. Minister Ackaffer moved to stop her, but his own men hesitated. Beating a grieving wife on camera, even for him, was too much. Mrs. Angela reached Victoria, took the baby with trembling hands. She read the tag, read the name, and something inside her shattered. You gave him away. Her voice was barely human. You sacrificed our child for land. Angela, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, Mrs. Angela's scream echoed across the compound. My baby, my son, you let me bury an empty coffin while he was alive. She turned to the police, to the military, to the cameras. I'm his mother. I demand a DNA test, and I want to know who else helped my husband do this. Minister Ackaffer's mask finally fell away. What lay beneath was cold, calculating, dangerous. Arrest them all, he ordered, every single one. The military moved forward. David's livestream counter hit 50,000 viewers, then 100,000, then. Stand down. The military commander's radio crackled. A voice Victoria didn't recognize, female, authoritative. This is Inspector General Amina Bello. I'm watching the live stream. Nobody moves until I arrive. Minister Ackaffer's face went white. Because Bello was one of the 12 names on the photographs, one of the families who'd built on Gwagwa land. And if she was watching David's stream, she just learned her own child might be alive. The standoff froze, military on one side, Mama Blessing's children on the other, and in the middle Mrs. Angela holding her son, staring at her husband like he was a stranger. You have 1 hour, Mama Blessing said quietly. 1 hour before every family in Maitama sees that live stream and realizes their dead children aren't dead. 1 hour before they start asking questions you can't answer, Minister. I'll destroy you, Minister Ackaffer hissed. You already tried. You killed my village. You killed Victoria's mother. You've spent 30 years trying to bury the truth. Mama Blessing smiled. But the well remembers, and now so does Nigeria. David's viewer count hit 1 million. What happened next wasn't a legal battle, it was a war. And the well had one more secret to reveal. Like this video, if you're still watching, you won't believe the ending. The Inspector General arrived with more cameras, more police, and more questions. Minister Ackhafer tried to maintain control, ordering arrests, demanding his warrants be honored. But Mrs. Angela refused to release the baby. Dr. Emeka, sensing which way the wind was blowing, suddenly remembered details about falsified records that implicated the minister directly. Mama Blessing gathered all 30 children around the replica well in the courtyard. "Tell them," she said to Victoria, "tell them what your mother discovered before she died." Victoria's throat was dry. David's camera, now surrounded by a dozen others, focused on her, millions watching, waiting. "My mother found documents," Victoria said. "Evidence of a massacre in 1985. Not a displacement, not a negotiation. A massacre. She was going to expose it, so they killed her and made it look like an accident." "Lies," Minister Ackhafer spat. "Then explain this." Mama Blessing pulled out a folder, yellowed with age. Inside, photographs, reports, witness statements, and a confession signed by Minister Ackhafer's father before his death. Inspector General Bello took the folder with shaking hands. Her face changed as she read. "These are deaths, 17 people." Her voice hardened. "Minister Ackhafer, your father led the operation that cleared Gwagwa village. My father was following government orders. Your father murdered civilians and buried them on land he then developed for personal profit." Bello turned to her men. "Arrest him. Arrest Dr. Emeka. Arrest everyone named in these documents." "You can't." Minister Ackhafer's composure shattered completely. "You're one of us. Your mansion sits on the same land. If I go down, you all—" "My child," Inspector General Bello's voice broke, "is my child here?" Mama Blessing nodded. A young man stepped forward, 22 years old, the Inspector General's eyes. "Mama," he said softly. Bello collapsed, just dropped to her knees in the dust, staring at the son she'd mourned for 2 decades. The son she'd been told died of sudden infant death syndrome. The son who stood before her, alive, real, reaching for her hand. Around the compound, similar reunions began to unfold. The live stream had gone viral. Other Maitama families were arriving, frantic parents who'd seen the faces on camera and recognized features, birthmarks, the ghosts of bobbies they'd buried. Not all of them. Some families refused to come, some denied everything, but enough arrived to change the tide. Minister Ackhafer saw his fortress crumbling, and he did what cornered predators do. He lunged for the baby in Mrs. Angela's arms. "If I can't have my legacy, nobody." Victoria moved without thinking, crashed into him. They went down hard, the minister's hand closing around her throat. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. Black spots bloomed in her vision. Then David was there, pulling the minister off her. Then the military. Then everyone at once, a surge of bodies and shouting in. A sound like thunder. The earth moved. Victoria scrambled to her feet, gasping. The ground beneath the compound was shaking, not violently, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Mama Blessing stood at the replica well, both hands pressed against the stones. Her eyes rolled back. Her voice, when it came, wasn't entirely her own. "The well remembers, the well protects, the well calls." The shaking intensified. Across Abuja, in the heart of Maitama, water began erupting from every well, every fountain, every pipe. David's phone exploded with notifications, videos from the city, mansions flooding, streets rivers. And in the Ackhafer estate, in the minister's own basement, water had burst through the floor and exposed something hidden. A chamber beneath the mansion. Inspector General Bello's phone rang. She listened, face draining of color. "Minister Ackhafer, there are bodies. 17 of them, under your family home. The mass graves." Mama Blessing had been right about everything. Minister Okafor's last shred of denial evaporated. He looked at his son in Victoria's arms, at his wife's face, twisted with disgust, at the cameras capturing his complete destruction. "You cursed us," he whispered to Mama Blessing. "No," the old woman said gently. "You cursed yourselves. I just made sure the debt came due." They arrested him then, led him away in chains while David's livestream hit 5 million viewers, while Nigeria watched the truth flood through Maitama's streets, while Victoria held a baby that had started an earthquake and felt her mother's presence in the water, in the wind, in the well's ancient stones. Mrs. Angela approached her slowly. "His name is Emmanuel. I chose it before they told me he was dead." "Emmanuel," Victoria repeated. The baby cooed in response. "Will you help me raise him?" Mrs. Angela's voice cracked. "I can't do this alone. I don't even know who I am anymore. But you saved him. You brought him home." Victoria looked at David, at Mama Blessing, at the 30 children being reunited with families who'd mourned them, at the impossible gift of truth finally told. "Yes," she said, "I'll help you." The trial took 6 months. The verdict took 6 minutes. Minister Patrick Okafor and 11 co-conspirators were convicted of murder, conspiracy, kidnapping, and fraud. Dr. Emeka Obi testified against all of them in exchange for a reduced sentence. The bodies beneath the Okafor mansion were identified, honored, and finally laid to rest. The Maitama properties were seized. Every square meter built on Gwagwa land was assessed, appraised, and, in a historic ruling, returned to the descendants of the original village. The 30 children, now legally recognized as heirs, became the largest landowners in Nigeria's capital overnight. Victoria stood at the original well behind what used to be the Okafor mansion. The compound was being demolished, piece by piece, to make way for something new, something better. "Affordable housing," Mrs. Angela said beside her, Emmanuel sleeping in a carrier against her chest. "That's what we're building here, what the land was always meant to hold, homes for people who need them." Victoria smiled. "My mother would have liked that." They become friends, she and Mrs. Angela. Strange friends, unlikely friends, but friends nonetheless. David called them the Well Sisters, and somehow the name stuck. David himself was currently fielding calls from international news agencies. His documentary about the Maitama massacre had been shortlisted for awards. He'd asked Victoria to marry him last week. She hadn't said yes yet, but she hadn't said no either. "Miss Victoria." She turned. Mama Blessing stood at the well's edge, looking older now, tired. The trial had taken its toll, but her eyes still burned with that impossible fire. "It's time," the old woman said. Victoria understood. She'd brought water from Niger State, from the compound's replica well. Now she poured it into the original, watching it spiral down into darkness, into history, into memory. The well accepted the offering, and for just a moment, so brief Victoria almost missed it, she saw a reflection that wasn't hers. A woman with her face, her eyes, standing in the water's mirror. "Mama," Victoria whispered. Her mother smiled, then faded, released at last. "The land remembers," Mama Blessing said quietly. "The land is whole again." She died peacefully 3 days later, surrounded by the 30 children she'd raised. They buried her beside the replica well in Niger State, her walking stick planted at the grave's head. At the funeral, Inspector General Bello announced a national memorial for Gwagwa village, a place where truth would never be buried again. Victoria visited the original well one last time before they sealed it. Not filling it in, Mama Blessing had forbidden that, but protecting it, making it sacred again. She brought Emmanuel. He was 6 months old now, babbling, reaching for everything. When she held him near the well, he looked down into its depths and laughed. "What do you see?" Victoria asked. Emmanuel pointed, and for a heartbeat Victoria thought she saw them, 17 faces in the water. The massacred villagers, her mother, Mama blessing, all the ghosts finally at rest. Then Emmanuel grabbed her nose, and the moment passed. David found her there as the sun set over Abuja. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, rested his chin on her shoulder. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Victoria looked at the well, at the land it had protected for 30 years, at the truth it had refused to let die. "Yes," she said, "I'm ready." They walked away together as the first stars appeared. Behind them the well stood silent, watching, waiting, remembering. Some debts could never be buried, but some, finally, miraculously, could be paid. The truth about how Nigeria's capital was built is darker than anyone imagined. Follow for more untold African stories that shake nations. Drop a comment telling me what shocked you most about Victoria's journey, and remember, some debts can never be buried. Until next time, this is a story Nigeria will never forget.